Hello, so welcome to the ninth episode of Two Nerds, One Pod. And this, of course, is a podcast that we talk about shit that no one really gives a damn about. Not at all.
Not even a little bit.
So my name is Scott.
And I'm Jake.
So today we were thinking we would talk about something that we probably spend a little bit of time doing, which is video games. Video games. Video games.
Yeah, I imagine that's like in a lighted up banner, so everyone's super excited about
Yeah, you can hear my enthusiasm as well.
I think we've talked about it a little bit before, but not solely.
I think we talked in the first episode about how what games we were playing, and we talked a bit about it, but it wasn't a whole episode, I don't think.
No, you're right. It is not.
So the big question is, what video games are you playing these days?
I've sort of switched. I'm mostly playing Apex Legends right now.
It's funny you mentioned that.
Why is that funny?
Because I also started playing that again recently. I've played it a long time ago with a friend of mine, and I had no idea what was going on in the game. And I couldn't even follow it. I would go to a container and open it, and then I'd be shot from some asshole really, really quickly after that. And it was really hard for me to figure out what was going on. It was just too fast paced, I guess you could say.
And you played other battle royales before, right?
Yes, I played PUBG, and I felt like I would be doing pretty good in that and maybe get into the top 10 teams. But what would always happen is I'd be sniped from somewhere where I had no idea where it came from across the map.
Yeah.
Did you play PUBG at all?
So PUBG was out when I didn't really have a gaming computer. So what I did was I watched a lot of Let's Plays of people playing PUBG.
Okay.
I watched a lot of PUBG.
Any particular YouTubers you want to mention?
I mostly watched Awful Squad.
Mm-hmm.
Are you familiar with that?
I'm not familiar with them, no.
It's the McElroy brothers. They started the gaming website. It's not Joystick, but they started a gaming website, and so it was through that company. But they were called Awful Squad, and they played PUBG very bad. And usually, what they did was just like dick around the whole time, and like would get in a car and explode, and yeah. So it was mostly just comedy and fun. Some of them were, I wouldn't say decent, they were okay. So yeah, that's mostly what I did. And I don't know, I think that's mostly how I play games. I try to have fun while still being okay.
Okay, that makes sense.
Like I'm not just out here dicking around and lolling the whole time.
PUBG has that a lot with the vehicles, especially the motorcycle. You can do flips and stuff on it. It's quite funny.
Yeah.
I remember the first time that I drove with the motorcycle. There are some obstacles in the game you can drive through, like haystacks or hay bales.
Mm-hmm.
And there's another type of hay bale that you can't. So I went full speed going into a haystack thinking, okay, I'm going to go right through it. And then I flipped off and died.
As one does.
Any other famous YouTubers that were playing it that you watched?
Not really. I only mention that because I would go out of my way. They would do live streams. I would have lunch and watch the live stream. I had never done that before. I haven't really done it since, of going out of my way to watch a stream.
That's dedication, dude.
One could say that.
Yeah. I watched Tio a lot. He played PUBG. The Swedish guy, do you know him?
No.
He's very low-key. He has the same core of people that he plays with. And
Mm-hmm.
one video, they had a strategy roulette wheel. I'm sure a lot of people have done it, but so they'd spin it. And then one round, he could only speak to his teammates in Swedish who couldn't understand Swedish. Or another one, they could only stay in the car the whole time and had to try to win that way in the car. And there were a couple other funny ones, like unarmed, you can't have any guns. So it was pretty entertaining to watch that.
That's fun. Yeah.
Do you know, there's a pretty popular guy, Soviet Womble, do you know him?
Mm-mm.
He's also very popular. He's got really high quality videos where it takes like almost 4 months, 5-6 months for him to make a video. And I think he was also in the PUBG scene. So that was quite fun to watch him. I think he played PUBG. I might be confusing that. He did DayZ and I think maybe a PUBG as well.
Mm.
I would watch those even though I didn't play PUBG at the time.
Yeah.
So then I shell out the $30 that I have hard earned and then played it, and I didn't find it fun at all because I would run around for 20 minutes and then just get shot from some a-hole really far away.
Yeah. It's funny you mentioned playing Apex before. I played Apex right when it came out. I even have season 2 badges, but I don't know. No one else was really playing it. To your point, like just didn't get into it. I was playing Warzone at that point, and so I think most of what we were doing was playing that game rather than Apex.
You played it with other people from the Row Squad Discord, right?
Yeah. That was probably during the same time I was getting really into Modern Warfare. I think I'm learning as I age, I tend to mainline games and will only play the one.
Yeah, I totally get that. Yeah.
And I just like keep hammering the one and I won't stop. What I've noticed inevitably happens is I'll latch onto one game and then I'll get tricked into playing some other game with someone else. And then I'll play that one for a very short period of time and then bounce around to different ones and then just latch onto another one. And so the one I'm currently latched onto, I would say, is Apex, but I bounce around a lot to other stuff.
Yeah, I had that with people I knew in real life as well as people I played games with online. Is they say, you have to check this game out. It's the best game. Really enjoy it. And then you buy it. And by that time, they've already moved on to a different one.
Yeah.
Goodbye, $60.
That happens all the time. And still, the other part of that too is time investment, right? I started playing Final Fantasy and I've learned very quickly it's not my kind of game. So thankfully, I'm not really out any money and it was free. I played for a week and then everyone else stopped playing. And I was like, all right, I'm not playing this either, I guess. I don't know.
Dodge that bullet.
Yeah.
What was the first free-to-play game that you remember? Do you remember?
That's a good question. That I played?
Not necessarily that you played, but you've heard of it as being free-to-play.
Some like tower defense game or something, maybe? I don't know.
Okay. Do you think that's a good model, the free-to-play?
I would say if you asked me like 3 years ago, I'd say no. But I think they have perfected it, but they have made it to a point where I think it's extremely effective. Like with Apex, just because that's what I know. I wouldn't have played it probably if it wasn't free. So I picked it back up because an old friend of mine said that he was playing it and then he didn't really have anyone to play with. And then it was free and my son has started to play video games. So I was like, all right, he and I can play this game and then this old friend of mine can play it. And it's the same thing of there's no monetary investment up front. I can just download it and play it. And if no one's going to play it, then it's no loss besides my time. So yeah, it's a night for me. I would say it's an extremely easy model. If my son and I want to play a game, I have to buy it and then buy it again, right?
Yeah.
For him. And so it's not, let's say it's a $40 game. It's now an $80 game because, he and I both play together typically. So it's much, much easier. And I would say too, is I have paid into Apex because I enjoy the game. So sure, yeah, I've put X number of hours into the game. I think it's worthwhile putting money into a thing that I put time into. And then two is what's nice is they make it so you have the ability to buy in for the character unlock. You can just buy all the 80% of the characters right off the bat if you just pay $40. I don't want to spend the time grinding to get those characters. I'll just pay $40 to unlock them. And the nice part is none of those characters are OP enough that you're automatically losing if you don't have them. So they've really they've avoiding the pay to win scheme, right?
100%. I was just going to say, when I first saw a free-to-play game, there were probably many before that, but it was actually an MMO called Anarchy Online. And I played it a lot, and then they made the content free, but then they limited you so much so that you could only have certain items or even attain, I think, certain levels if you were on the free version.
Yep.
And for me, that model didn't work, and I eventually stopped playing it. But Apex, I will say, I'll put a disclaimer that I haven't paid into it yet money, but I really appreciate that you can play and you can still have a chance against people that have paid to get more content, more characters, or more not weapons, but weapon skins or whatever. And that's a really effective model, I think. So I don't know financially how the company is doing that makes it. I think it's Respawn Entertainment, something like that. But yeah, I was able to unlock a few, I think even 4 or 5 extra characters just by playing for free. And I really enjoy playing in that game. Pretty much any character can be fun to play. I don't know how you feel about it. If there's one you like or dislike a lot.
I sort of wax and wane. I feel like I'm learning more about the characters as I play. For a long time, I really liked Bloodhound or Seer because I'm bad, so I like knowing where people are.
Yeah, we played together all at one time. I think do we play the battle royale or do we play arenas? I forget.
I think we played BR.
Okay, didn't we win one time as well?
I don't know. I honestly don't remember. I know we played. I don't remember. Oh, it was late for you, I think.
Yeah, it was definitely late. I had a long night.
You had finished a work party.
Yeah, that was quite funny. Yeah, I really enjoyed it. But so you play Bloodhound and Seer is a character that you could not see yourself playing.
I haven't really played Bangalore or Wraith or what's the guy who like injects himself with
Octane.
medicine or whatever. Yeah.
Medicine.
I don't drugs.
Yeah, for someone that isn't playing Apex, it's a character that he uses endorphins or something, some sort of speed, and he injects himself and runs faster.
Yeah, he takes damage when he does that, which is like
Yeah, he's got an ability that's passive, which is health regeneration. So it slowly regenerates over time, but if you use that ability, it injures you.
yeah. But I've started using Lifeline more because I'm finding the more I play, the more I'm sort of attaching myself to another player, whether it be someone I know or puppies, which basically is shorthand for strangers.
Randos, yeah.
Yeah, randos. And in that way, then I'm more of a support character, and I've always played support characters, even when I played Overwatch or TF2 or anything like that. I much preferred not being the person that matters if you aim.
Yeah. Lifeline is extremely effective because you basically res your teammate without having to do anything. So you can get them back up on their feet with the little robot, and you can hide and run and do your own thing. That's quite powerful. The most frustrating thing, and there's a game mode called Arenas. I don't know if we played that together or if you've ever tried that mode.
Oh yeah, I play that a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, so the arenas, if people have not played Apex, it's a short round format where you have a limited amount of resources and you buy a weapon, and the arena is really tiny. So it's 3v3. And I always have a lifeline on my team, the medic, who just runs off and dies as the first person or is standing right next to me fighting someone and not tapping the E button once to res me. And that's always fun. It's always very, very helpful and very fun to see that happen.
Sometimes I forget that I'm Lifeline and I just run around like an idiot, and I'm like, oh right.
So maybe I played with you and I didn't realize.
Yeah, or someone exactly like me. I'm very bad at battle arenas. I'm much better at arenas. I'm sorry, I'm terrible at battle royale. I'm much better at arenas. I think the confined space allows me to be more aggressive, because that's typically how I would play when I played Modern Warfare, which I played a lot of. I play much more forward as a player rather than sort of defensively or like a sniper, whatever. I play fast, like a SMG, and all the way up is where I usually play.
I think that the arenas also eliminate the factor of another team. If you're fighting one team, so two teams are in one area, then a third or fourth team comes in, and that gets really messy, especially during the Battle Royale format where it's 3v3. That is quite difficult to defend against when you're fighting two teams. And usually what happens is two of the teams shoot the one team with one person or something instead of fighting each other. It doesn't really make sense. But
yeah, and especially in Apex, it's much more about splintering off one person of the 3-person team that you're attacking and taking them one by one. Whereas, especially in the Battle Royale format, you're much more likely to get third-partied, which means another team comes in and kills either you or the other team and then finishes you off. It's a strategy done. I mean, I do it too, is if you hear gunfire, you go sprinting towards it and you chase people down. Like they're weakened and you are full power and you're ready to go.
Yeah, you could jump in and take out the stronger team, ideally, and then go for the weaker one.
Yeah, exactly.
It's definitely a valid strategy.
Yeah, it kind of sucked being on the receiving end of that, but there's also times which are great where you take care of one team, the third party team arrives, and then you are handling them as well, and then another team comes in. The revolving door sometimes is really fun, but also can be hell.
For Battle Royale, do you prefer trios or duos?
Trios, yeah. Yeah, trios, I would say only because there's more people, which is more fun. I played Modern, what they call it, Warzone. It was Modern Warfare up until the other company took over for Black Ops, but it's Warzone, I should say, had a mode of 4 people, which was a lot.
That's a lot to keep track of, yeah. I was gonna
Yeah.
say that I prefer duos because if it's trios, I always lose track of the third person. It's so easy for someone to jump up on a rock behind you or
Mm.
even sneak around not making noise and suddenly you have someone behind you.
Hmm.
Duos, I can just follow it. And I think I've won duos in the Battle Royale mode more often than trios.
Hmm.
I think every game is really hard when you're paired with randos and then they just do their own thing. But I've seen so many times in trios that someone, you drop in from the dropship and someone just goes off and does their own thing in a completely different area and has no chance, and then they're still doing it. I don't understand that logic
Hmm.
at all.
Yeah, that happens. I would say that happens a lot. Well, I play ranked more than I play just the general one, so I find that happens less and more. There's a lot more team cohesion in ranked. Do you play ranked?
I haven't tried ranked yet, so I've only tried unranked. I've heard
Oh, you
people
should,
talking about
yeah.
it, and I think people would play a bit more serious in the ranked version. But in the unranked version, people would.
Yeah, it's not like they don't like to have fun or whatever. I think they just are less likely to just fuck around and then run off on you.
Yeah, and I agree because they want to have something added to their rank, right? Their elo that they want to keep.
Hmm.
And the unranked, just go back to unranked playing. It's also funny when someone gets knocked down. If you've never played Apex, even if someone gets eliminated, you can still take their, they call it the banner. You can take a piece off their body more or less, and then you can res them at a certain point. And very often people will just quit as soon as they get knocked down or eliminated, and it's really funny to watch that. I don't understand the motivation there either.
Yeah.
So they automatically screw you by doing that.
Yeah, I was in a game recently where I was almost one of those people because we were in a corner and this guy was stuck in a room. And I learned something about a character. What's funny too is you learn about other characters by playing with them as well.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah, which is really interesting, right? In this particular instance, it was Crypto, right? He has a little drone that he can send out. What I didn't know is you could actually pick up your team's banners in the drone and deliver them to
The res point, yeah.
the res point, which I did not know. So yeah, it's really interesting.
There are some very niche mechanics like that, yeah. I recall a similar thing where I was outside of what do they call it? The thing that burns you if you're outside the ring.
Circle.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
was outside the circle and I had been knocked down and I was also eliminated by it. And I was really far away from the teammate. And he said, "No worries, I'll get you." And then I see the little drone coming out, and then I was picked up by the drone and then res. So there's quite a lot of forgiveness in that regard.
Yeah. I would say too is there's a really interesting mechanic in Apex that isn't in the other battle royales, and that is you can pick up a shield. They call it a heat shield, but basically it stops the circle from killing you. And so you can actually place that and heal up before re-entering the battle or the non-hurdy circle.
The non-hardy circle. Yeah, the current battlefield, yeah.
Yeah, which I think is a really, I don't know, it's not that you typically see in other BRs. So I don't know, I think that mechanic is really interesting in that there's characters that can help you out of there. You can res teammates in there. You can have a little mini battle in there. It's like a tiny little quick bubble that, sort of draws its own mechanics into it. I think it's pretty interesting.
It's like an oasis in the burning,
Mm-hmm.
whatever you want to call it, the burning ouch stuff that closes outside the ring. I swear they have a name for it.
Burning out stuff. Yeah, I'm sure they do. I'm sure it's somewhere in the canon that I just don't care to read.
You keep up with the story that they have each season with each character, or not so much?
Absolutely not.
Yeah, me neither. Yeah.
care about the stories in so much as the cool skins I get by doing the menial tasks they ask me to.
Yeah, there's some people I'm sure pay attention, but I just go to the objective. There was one that came out with this season where you have to play as what's his name?
Bloodhound? Yeah.
Bloodhound, and then you have to go find a raven and then talk to it. And I took so many attempts to do that because you just have to follow the raven more or less, but everyone dropped in the exact same place and everyone had a team with the bloodhound, so they were all knew exactly where everyone was because they could scan using his ability. I even tried dropping outside the circle, way outside the circle, and waiting, and then another bloodhound dropped right next to me. And I was hiding around a rock, and he just punched me to death. Instead of both of us doing the objective, he said, "Okay, I'm gonna punch this guy to death for no reason, even though I was just standing there not doing anything."
I just want to complete the mission. Yeah.
Then I tried to run as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. Then I tried to run, and then he hunted me down. We didn't have a gun even. It was just he was denying me from the objective more or less. But I guess that's a microcosm of the internet, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah.
Preventing other people from getting what they want.
I think they have like 2 or 3 weeks per objective or whatever though. So in like a week, I think it'll be a little bit easier to manage.
Yeah, I eventually got it. But what I did is I unchecked the field teammates, so I was always dropping alone, so I could always pick Bloodhound. And then I just waited until the big fuck off battle in this one area was done, and then I followed that stupid raven.
Perfect.
Yeah.
As the game is intended.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah.
So when I play, I usually play as Bangalore because of the smoke screen. It's so effective, especially if your teammate is fallen and you're in an area with no cover. You can just do a couple of those, and sometimes people will run into it, but most of the time not because they're not sure what's going on if the person's being rezzed or not. So I've gotten quite a lot of revives that way due to the smoke. But her artillery is so useless because it takes forever. You throw the flare first, and then a ring of rockets falls down to indicate where the arty is going to come from, and then like 5 seconds later the other arty comes. It takes way too long. I can't actually remember ever getting a kill with that.
I don't think I've ever been down by it.
It's just too slow. Yeah,
I would say I think that Bangalore is the least team focused character, and I'm sort of taking this from like embarrassingly a VTuber that I was watching, but it sort of makes sense. I will say that the VTuber I was watching is like a top 500 characters or player, so it comes with some knowledge on her part. But she was saying that, you know, the utility of her is sort of, it's good for playing solo or queuing solo, right? Like if you don't really know how or where or what your teammate is going to do or what your team is going to do, it's sort of, Bangalore is sort of the character that allows you to be malleable, right? If they screw up and they die very quickly, you can smoke screen and just like play the rest of the round by yourself.
Yeah, you can escape pretty easily, and she's got a nice passive ability where if she gets shot at, she runs almost 25-50% faster or something like that.
Yeah.
So you just basically turn into an Olympic sprinter. Someone's shooting at you. I think every time I've tried to use a smoke screen in a way that tried to help the team, like say there's an open ground and there's a sniper there, that usually works. Mm-hmm. But there have been a few times where I tried to do strategic things, like someone is shooting at someone else and I see their health is low, so I smoke in front of them. I just hear someone on the mic shrieking, "Don't do that. Why'd you do that? You're stupid." That kind of stuff. So it's kind of hard to predict what people want, if they want smoke or not, you know?
I don't know. It was sort of the same thing with Counter-Strike, right? As far as smoke. I never saw it as a hindrance or a good thing either way, but it does allow sort of a pause or a break in a fight, or even forces the other team to move in, right? As far as like strategy or placement goes.
Yeah. Did you ever play any Global Offensive, Counter-Strike Global Offensive, or?
I tried. I didn't know what the hell was going on, so I stopped playing because it was so different from just regular Counter-Strike.
I won't talk about it too much then, but I play ranked on that, and there's a 5v5 mode, and smokes, you need it every round. If you're going to go hit a site, then there's a smoke that you can do to block off this exit, and the smoke that you can do to what you said, where the defender will have to push up. There's also one-way smokes where you throw them, and then you can see the enemies, but they can't see you. Like you can see either their leg or their head, and then they can't see anything. So at the pro level, it's a must. You have to have a smoke every round, more or less.
Interesting. Yeah, I remember in the early days of Counter-Strike where you could, if you had a better computer, you could drop a bunch of smoke bombs and basically everyone else's frames would drop and then you could just kill them all.
Yeah, that was definitely hard for the Half-Life 1 engine to render when it first came out. I played in 1999 Beta 5 a long, long time ago, and I still play CS, and I'm garbage at it. I'm really, really bad. So it's a steep learning curve there, especially since in the competitive matchmaking, I would say 1 out of every 20 matches I play as a cheater, which doesn't sound like a lot, but this is like an official game that makes Valve a shit ton of money via the loot boxes and skins.
Mhm.
And there's still people that are blatantly cheating with a spin bot where they're not even facing you and you get headshotted from, really far away, or through a wall, or wall hacks where their teammates know exactly when you're coming around a corner. They check only the corner you're in and nowhere else because they know you're there. And that just, to me, is very frustrating.
It's funny you just mentioned that because there was recently a video I watched about how TF2 has the same problem where if you join any public server, it's just full of bots that can one-shot you across the screen.
So players using bots, you mean, or any bots?
Yeah, players using bots to one-shot or whatever.
Yeah, that's a lot of fun to play then if you're just getting repeatedly completely owned by other players.
And TF2 is what, like 15 years old or something?
Yeah.
So if you've been playing the same game for that long and then now it's like this hellhole, I can imagine the frustration.
Yeah, 100%. I wouldn't even bother playing if it's really that rampant.
Yeah.
So back to Apex, I would say, because the other games, I haven't really played TF2 very much, just watched a lot of videos on it. So I haven't really played that much. And you haven't played much of Global Offensive. So back to Apex. I was talking about the characters that I played some. I actually really like Caustic on a lot of the maps as well. Have you ever used the character?
I have. I am running into some interesting strategies with his, I don't know what things are, the
The gas traps. Yeah.
bags. Yeah.
They look like hefty bags full of, I don't know, candy or something.
Yeah. Yeah, they do.
Yeah, I love the ability, for anyone that's never played Caustic, that you throw a gas trap and it takes a couple seconds to arm, and then when someone else runs by it, then you can see that you're doing damage to another player on your target reticule, and if you're in the gas with them, you can see them really clearly. You can see their outline and stuff because he's wearing goggles or something.
Mm-hmm.
So it's quite a nice one, and that is really nice, especially if you're playing Battle Royale in the later stages, and if you're going toward the circles really small, then you could totally set up a defensive area, and as soon as anyone comes near them, then the gas traps will go off, of course, and you can see them. So I've won quite a few doing that.
Yeah, there was another interesting one that I ran into recently. They were in a building in the circle that we were trying to get into, and the Caustic put the gas traps on the doors so they couldn't open.
Yeah.
So I was like fighting the two doors pointing us, and then I went to go around and there was a gas trap blocking me from, attacking from their side. So yeah, I hadn't seen that done before. So yeah, and you can do that with bodies too. If you kill someone on the inside or outside of a door, you can get it stuck.
Yeah, or you could just stand in front of the door, right?
And smash E, yeah.
Yeah. Did you know that you can punch the doors open? Just curious.
Yeah, you can punch them or you throw a nade at them or whatever.
Yeah, it just takes a while. So that definitely delays them if they do it like that. So that's a smart one.
Well, you can hear them coming, yeah.
Yeah, you can hear them hitting on the door. It makes a really loud kind of noise that doesn't seem to match what's going on, but I was gonna say the audio in Apex is really good. The locational audio, you know exactly where someone's shooting at someone else and what weapon. It's quite crisp and clear for each weapon type.
Yeah, it's clear that they want you to utilize the audio in the game.
Do you find that the microphone when someone talks is super low in that game?
Oh, in game? Yeah, it's terrible. It's horrible.
Yeah, I've maxed out the slider for that, and usually I can only hear every 1 out of 3 words from someone unless they're really talking loudly and clearly.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what's up with that.
Mm-hmm.
I that's one thing that I wish would improve, but maybe they're working on that. They do so many changes to the game
Mm-hmm.
every season. It's quite quite nice, especially the tweaking of the weapons. So if one weapon is becoming the meta, then next season it's a piece of crap, more or less.
I think most battle royales did and do it, but how they adjust the loot tables all the time, I think is really interesting. Heavily adjust the loot tables every week, it seems. Every day they adjust sort of what's available on the ground.
Yeah, I think they changed the area that is likely to spawn high tier loot depending on the map very frequently, and then sometimes they changed the values of the weapons, I think, between the seasons. And the availability, like what comes down in the drop boxes from the sky.
Yeah.
The care package is quite nice. I was going to ask, have you noticed them tweaking the maps a bit? I've seen some changes in maps, but I'm not really 100% sure.
They added the person with the guard rails and the machine gun. What the hell's her name?
Oh, Rampart?
Rampart. Yeah. They added like a whole Rampart section for her event with high tier loot and these like boxes that you could unlock instead of they have the traditional, I don't know what it's called, the green ooze that gives you points that allows you to craft things.
Oh, yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah.
You can utilize those points to unlock yellow tier weaponry.
Yeah, okay, got it. I think I've noticed on a couple maps, I think the futuristic looking one, Olympus or something, they added an area where they have like a boxing ring now, and that wasn't there before. So that's cool that they're changing the existing maps and not just cranking them out and leaving them there.
Yeah, I would say the maps are pretty interesting. They're pretty dynamic, right? They're not reskinned versions of each other. They're significantly different.
Yeah, I can really appreciate that. I was gonna ask, is there a weapon that you're currently using a lot now, or?
I'd say I die very early, but typically, I don't know. I like to end up with a charge rifle in an RE45, basically.
Okay, so the sniper rifle and then an automatic pistol.
Yeah, I find the RE45, I think that's my favorite weapon only because I'm bad at aiming and it allows me to just throw bullets.
To pew pew very efficiently.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny. I typically don't play the normal unranked matches, and I played some last night. And for whatever reason, I kept picking up Mozambiques, which are basically handheld shotguns. It's like a shotgun, but you can shoot faster. And I was really efficient with it. I was kill leader very quickly and sort of stayed there for a while. What's interesting too about this format of game is it forces you to try things that you might not want to or think of. I was forced into using this weapon because it was the only one available to me, so I needed to make do with what I had, and I would surprise myself with how effective it was. It was basically the RE45, but I could just blast in a general area rather than actually aiming.
Yeah, if I'm not mistaken, that's one of the, there's nerds have created a chart of all the weapons and the DPS and the damage and all that. And I think that's one of the higher DPS weapons in this season. So it's quite good, even though the ammo is very limited for it. It's like 6 bullets or something.
The Mozambique.
Yeah, I think it's 4 or 6. I think it might be 6.
Yeah, it's just interesting that, as an example, when I played Modern Warfare, especially in the traditional way, not in the Battle Royale, what you do is you choose the weapon you want. So you sort of inevitably get into this kind of, in a nice way, in a nice rut, right? It's not a rut in a bad way, but you sort of get into what's comfortable.
You set in your ways and then you always use that gun, right?
Yeah, right. Whereas in sort of, in these cases, it's like you pick up, especially what I typically like to do is do a combat drop.
Yeah.
Meaning you drop in an area and you immediately have to fight. Like there's no choice. And so I find it interesting that you have to make do with what is available to you. And you, again, it's sort of the same thing with being with characters that you don't typically play with. You sort of see their strengths and weaknesses, which I think is really interesting.
Yeah, it's always funny doing a hot drop and then everyone doesn't have a gun, so you're just punching each other in a big circle.
Yeah. In the current map rotation, there's an area that you have to go through that is available. I say not you have to. It's a wormhole that you can, and it's up in the air. And inevitably, what happens is there's 5 teams that go to it, and you end up in this tiny room just punching each other.
Okay. Yeah, I think you mean the lab on, is that New World or World's Edge? I think it's World's Edge, maybe.
Yeah. Or it's like Wraith's portal, and then it brings you down into this tiny room.
Yeah, like a laboratory, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, I know exactly the one you mean. It's funny you mentioned the hot drop because I always do the opposite. I always pick a place where people aren't going to go, and then I kind of work my way towards the center.
Mm.
There's less action, and sometimes you just walk around for 20 minutes without seeing anyone and die anyway. But for me, that's more effective because I almost always, in those close quarter matches, always lose because I land. I'm not very good at the dropping mechanic. So if I want to go somewhere that's 800 meters away, usually I get there slower than other people because I don't do the thing where you point down and wiggle as much as other people do. And so I'm always the last one on the scene, and it's just like, hey guys, no gun, don't mind me. And then a couple seconds later, I'm dead, always. So I always go to the quiet areas and try to work my way towards the circle.
I do that as well, or whoever I'm playing with. There's only so many times you can bash your head into a wall and then not get frustrated, right?
Yeah, sure.
Dropping far away is also helpful, only because then you have some time to enjoy the game or like to relax or whatever. It's always funny too because we fall into like a couple of categories. Is one, if you're hot dropping, you'll die right away, or you'll live. That's option one. Option two is there's someone nearby and you either get owned or own them and then move on. Or if you're really far away, you'll collect what you need and then run into no one until like the third circle and then just get completely dominated.
Yeah.
I feel like whenever I do a far away one, we always end up running into a team with red armor or which is the highest tier armor, and then just getting rocked. This is the 10th engagement they've had, so it's like, next, please.
Yeah. I do like that mechanic where if you shoot someone, it adds to your shield.
Yeah.
And eventually you get the highest level armor. It's a really interesting one that I don't see in other games. So I guess what you're saying is true, that the more you shoot other people, the better off you are. But there's only an extent, right? The best armor you can get without shooting someone is the T4 armor. So you've got 4 bars of shield, and then the red one, I think, is 5. Is that right? So it's only 20% more, but still it's 20% more than you have. So it does encourage you to be more in combat and find other people. So that is something that's nice, yeah.
It encourages aggressiveness.
Yeah, that's very true. And I was just thinking about the map. I appreciate the map size more than PUBG because PUBG you could really go around forever in a day. And then in this one, I think by the third or fourth circle, you're really close to other teams already, and that's something I appreciate.
Well, yeah, and typically people they do combat drops too, right? And part of that is the reason why I say that is because inevitably, or what can happen a lot, half of the teams will be gone before the second circle even starts.
Yeah, you hear the call when it says first blood when the first person dies. That happens literally 5 seconds after people hit the ground. It's
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever been part of first blood or gotten a first blood. It's always so fast. So that means they drop a second the ship gets over to the first point where you can drop, basically.
How many teams are there?
It depends what you play. If you play trios, then there's 20 teams. If you play duos, 30.
Yeah, so 10 teams typically die before at least the second circle's done.
Oh yeah, definitely, if not more.
Yeah. I always feel like there's only 3 or 4 teams left in this second or third circle. So it's a quick game, I would say, and getting in and through the game is very fast.
Yeah, I appreciate the queuing. It sounds like we're doing advertising for Apex, but for a free game where I haven't paid anything, I can usually find a game pretty fast, which suits my schedule really well. If I have to go do something maybe in a half hour, an hour, then I can say, okay, I'll play a couple rounds, and then boom, I'm done. Right?
Yeah, right.
So I can appreciate that. The matchmaking system, I've had a couple times where I've played with a friend, and he would not get into the game. He's having problems with the EU server or something, but that was only 1 or 2 times. But other than that, I almost always find a game within 30 seconds of clicking the go button. So that's quite a plus.
Yeah. I would say that it's a fun game. It's free, which is great. You sort of touched on it a little bit, is that they sort of have the pay as you go mechanics nailed in a way that doesn't feel like it's intrusive.
Yeah, it's not pay to win. It's just if you want to get the characters faster, you can do that.
Yeah, right.
Even then, you can still unlock the character. You just have to play a few hours or whatever, maybe longer. And then the first few character unlocks go pretty quick. And then after that, it takes a while, I would say.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So we talk quite a lot about Apex this podcast because it's pretty much the only thing we've been playing commonly, even if we don't play it together very often.
Yeah.
But yeah, this has been our podcast on games and what games we've been playing.
And I'm Jake, and I'm so sorry you had to listen to that.
Very sorry, guys.
Thanks.